coming to you again from Xi'an, and we're on our way. We've just had our breakfast, and we're going to go out to see the terracotta figures. The figures that we had talked to you about before that we were all so excited to go and see. We will also go be seeing the tomb of the first emperor of China and stop at a factory, which of course everybody will be most excited about. We have with us two of the ladies on the trip who will express a little bit of their pleasure at going too. What do you think about that?
I love to be here in Xi'an because I've read so much about those terracotta figures, and it just seems a miracle that we're seeing the real thing.
And it just doesn't seem possible that we're really here seeing everything. It's been so much fun.
Well, I'm glad you've all enjoyed it. I know we ourselves are having a marvelous time. Everything has worked very, very well so far.
Well, Betty, here we go. I'll tell you, this hotel is really very nice. It's owned and operated by the Chinese, and they certainly did a beautiful job when they built that. You know, most of the hotels, the newer ones going up, it seems as though they are joint ventures, either with the people from Hong Kong or Americans or Japanese or the people from Australia.
Yeah, we had the Holiday Inn, which is a
That's
chain,
right,
of course.
Yeah. Very nice. Well, this is going to be a nice ride out to the tombs and over this river. I thought this is a rather interesting sight. The day was very, very cloudy, and it looks as though we're going to probably have some rain by the end of the day. But aren't these arches pretty?
Yes, the whole scenery, the whole terrain is so interesting and exciting to look at, isn't it?
Right, it really is.
It's not like going down Highway 99.
That's for sure. And a lot of the crops, of course, that they're growing, and that we can see here on the side of the road. Also, the vendors are out on the side of the road too, and I think one of the things that impressed me is to see people sitting there selling maybe a half a dozen pomegranates, this type of thing.
Yeah, and 7 or 8 having their little stalls right next to one another. Actually, not stalls, they're sitting on the ground selling their wares.
Exactly. And you notice the mode of transportation. Well, of course, we're following a lot of tour buses today, but they're a lot of the little bicycle carts, I guess that you would call them, or petty carts. And then, of course, too, there's mules and horses that are still pulling things.
I was intrigued by the fact that they use like the little motor, that they, you know, like a lawnmower motor, and use it. Yeah,
that's interesting. Now, the hill that we see off here in the distance is where the first emperor of China was buried. And that hill is a man-made hill. That was not natural. That was a man-made hill, and we're coming up close to it. We're not going to stop here on our way. We'll come as we come back from the other areas where the terracotta figures are. We have an opportunity to stop.
Notice the wall.
Yeah, and that's been made in modern times, of course. This particular wall here, and the entrance there. And of course, we're going to just whip right on by. And there's those stalls, Betty, that you're talking about. But this is an overview here. Because now we have arrived at the place where the terracotta figures are, and this little diorama here shows you what the area looks like. And of course, it's just farmland, and this was discovered by farmers, by a group of farmers, in 1974. And then, of course, in 1979, it was open to the public. And do you know, in 1984, President Reagan visited the area.
That's rather exciting, isn't it?
Yeah,
to think?
Sure is.
Well,
right.
I'm sure there have been many famous people that we don't know about that have also visited here.
Oh,
because
yes.
it is such a wondrous thing to see.
Yes, it certainly is. Unfortunately, Betty, we can't take pictures inside the pits themselves. It's forbidden to do so.
What a pity.
What a pity, right. But here in the museum are some of the actual figures that were taken out of the pits. And it's rather hard to shoot videotaping here because you can see these are all encased in glass and everything is up against a window. So and everybody else is there with their flash cameras. But aren't these magnificent?
They're the actual life size, and the features, the detail is incredible, isn't it? And these were 10,000 of them.
Yes.
That they did all of this work on.
What amazes me is that the features on the faces of each of the warriors and the generals are all different.
Yes.
I mean, they're all individual. Can you imagine how much time this must have taken?
Now look at that man right now. Isn't that beautiful?
It is gorgeous.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's the workmanship is absolutely incredible.
When you think of doing 10,000, you think of doing it in sort of mass production type,
right.
but you can see that this was certainly not done that way. It was done with much care and love.
And I think the interesting thing is, too, is that a lot of the history of this was passed down on legend because from what we understand, the workers were buried with these particular artifacts. So nothing was recorded as far as written history is concerned. And this is something that I think that was quite baffling. But if you look and see the detailed work here, the workmanship, and I would just wonder how many people they must have had working on these and how many years it must have taken. They'll probably never know.
How many years? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I bought 5 of the little figures, just small ones, and I have them at home. I'll bring them here, and we'll show them
Oh, that
on
would
television.
be great. Well, it says here, the general unearthed in vault number 1 is clad in a long robe, I can hardly read that, with a tear-shaped cap and armored suit with close scaler, is that what that says? He wears a pair of shoes that are upturned, and his hand, of course, is there for a sword. And those shoes, must have been uncomfortable even for a statue.
But look at the hands. Look at the details.
The detail is incredible.
Yes.
Absolutely incredible. Now, in the pits, only they found things in pit number 1 and number 2 and number 3, but they didn't find anything in pit number 4. And from what we saw in the inside, which of course we can't show you because they wouldn't let us take photographs in there, only one pit has been excavated, and there are still things that are being excavated in there because this hasn't been going on that long.
We could see that when we were there.
Right.
Marv, do you suppose that they don't let us take pictures inside so that they can make the money themselves on the postcards they sell? Or
Well, I wouldn't be a bit surprised, but you know, a lot of times you figure how many flashes are going off and how many millions of people go through there, and they know that flashes on cameras will destroy, ancient paintings, that type of thing. So I imagine that they have probably a practical reason for it as well. But as many people as go through there, if you were all taking pictures at the same time, I mean, we saw thousands of people go through. Can you imagine how much longer they would have stayed?
Never need any electricity. Use a flashlight.
That's true. Well, I think they're doing a fantastic job, though, the archaeologists, of what they are doing.
It's painstaking.
Yes, because a lot of these were destroyed, of course, and they had to put these actually back together again. That's a terracotta figure of an officer. He was unearthed in vault number 1, and if you can see, he had a long cap and the pair of shoes again. Those tips are turned upward again, but look at the hands, and you know that he probably had a lance or perhaps a sword.
Some kind
in
of
that
armor,
hand.
probably.
Yeah, I would suspect so. And look at the armor on the front
isn't
plate.
that incredible?
That is really something.
It's a good shot you have here, Marv.
Well, it's a little difficult. Now you see it flickers a little bit because we're shooting under the fluorescent lights, but it certainly
They look
is
real,
amazing.
don't they?
Yes, they certainly do. And we finally have seen today the terracotta figures. And what was your impression?
Just exactly, what I anticipated is beyond anticipation, really. It's just such an incredible thing. It must be going to be one of the 8th or 9th wonders of the world.
I'm sure that it will be. I think everybody that has been with us on the trip sort of agree that this is exactly what this will be. It'll probably be the 8th or 9th wonder of the world.
Awesome.
Awesome, right?
Yes.
And to think that they only discovered this just about 10, 11 years ago, and that they have done that much as far as excavation is concerned in that amount of time, and putting these pieces back together.
If you don't see it, it's hard to visualize, truly. Even when you see the pictures of it, it's just hard to think that this has really taken place, that these figures are actually there. It's really something to see.
I'll tell you, it's worth the whole trip to China, I think.
Yeah,
just
that
to
and the
see
Great
this
Wall,
one.
of course.
Oh, yes,
You can't underline that one
No, that's
enough,
right.
I think.
And we've really just started. That we have I had no idea that our itinerary on this trip was going to be as what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, varied and so much to see, yes, and all kinds of things. Really tremendous. It's been a fine trip.
Oh, this is just great, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it too. Well, it's time to get back on the bus and on down the road.
On we go. Fine.
Betty, we should explain that the tomb of the emperor, where we're passing now, which we passed earlier, is probably about a mile or two from the pits where we saw the terracotta figures. And so they're not buried in a tomb with the emperor himself.
No, and I don't know whether we even said why they were there. Why they were made in the first place.
Why were they made in the first place?
To protect the emperor. They were his guard to protect him.
So that's why. And now this was the first emperor of the Qing dynasty in China. And of course the first emperors had their capital there in Xi'an.
Look at the
And-
fruit. I mean,
Yeah,
vegetables
now this
there,
is
huh?
a native market, and I'll tell you, this was exciting for me. I like this type of thing, to get in with the people, and you can see, of course, they're selling mainly to tourists, but to other people too, as we'll see in
Well,
a
they
little
have
bit
their
later
own
on.
people there, but
Right.
I'm intrigued with the real culture of the people that you see here, rather than the big cities of Beijing and stuff. This is oh, it's neat.
Yeah, and you see, but there are a lot of tourists, as you can
Yes.
see in the background by all the tour buses there. China really is set up, I think, right now for the tourists. Now, this is one of the factories, just one of the many factories that we went into. And of course, after viewing the terracotta figures, well, you certainly want to take one home, don't you?
Oh, well, we did.
Right. And it amazed me to see how they were making these molds, by hand right there on the floor. There wasn't, again, much light here, so our pictures aren't too terribly crisp, but we had to shoot under what available light was right there. And besides the terracotta figures, of course, some of the potters were making other types of pottery there. I guess the clay must be quite prevalent there, the
Well,
terracotta.
sure, making that many, 10,000, they had to have a good supply.
I guess so. But those were interesting things to be able to bring home as a souvenir of the trip, and they were very inexpensive.
And look at the handwork. I mean, so much is, well, it's all done by hand.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it all is. That's true. And back out to the marketplace again so that we can see there are things. There's those pomegranates you can see that I was talking
and Marv,
about.
that's what I was talking about. See, they're right next to each other,
Yeah.
selling the same kind of goods, and you wonder, how can any of them make any money that way?
I don't know. Maybe they do that so that they can visit. Do you suppose so?
Well, they do a lot of that.
Because that's what native markets are usually all
Yeah.
about, I think. But now you, Betty, have purchased some of the clothing there, and these are sort of
Yeah.
what do you call it? Would it be a poncho or what?
No, what I got were vests, all hand embroidered, and they
Oh.
are just beautiful. I'll have to bring one down and show it. It is. I bought several for gifts. and-
Don't you think China was a real bargain as far as a shopper's paradise, right?
Yeah, I found that mainland China was more of a bargain than Hong Kong.
Yeah, and we all thought that
Really,
Hong
and-
Kong was going to be better, but I think
Well,
the times have changed.
Designer clothes, Hong Kong.
Yep.
But
Good. Well, we're going to see some of our adventure. Oh, look at this little man. He has an opium pipe for sale. Betty, look, there's Lydia. Let's see if she buys the opium pipe. Huh? Don't you want one of those, Lydia? Are you smoking opium pipe? Well, I guess Lydia didn't want the opium pipe.
obviously, she didn't want the opium pipe.
Did you see what he had in his hand?
Yes, I
Numbers.
I
So-
used it.
Oh, did you really? So if you want to bargain, you can just point to how much it is. That's great. Look at these. Look at the food booths. Now these again are for the native people that are there, and I didn't know what some of the things were, but they did look interesting.
Yes, and it even smelled good.
Mm-hmm. You know, Fidel was an adventurous man because he bought food off the streets and
I know
and
he
ate there.
wasn't afraid at all.
Not a bit.
Uh-uh.
Now I don't know what this gentleman was making. It looks sort of like a cookie. Now watch, Betty. He rolls out the dough on the thing, and he puts something in it. We'll see in a minute. But here he puts it on the grill, and then look what he does. He puts it inside the oven.
To
Isn't that
bake,
something?
huh?
Yeah.
I thought that I didn't think it was a pastry, but maybe it was.
I'm
huh?
not sure. I didn't try one. Of course, we had just finished lunch before this, so none of us were really that hungry. But
Vidal probably thought it was a tortilla.
well, now I don't know what he just
Oh,
put
yes.
something in there and
Uh-huh.
rolled it into the dough. Hello, everyone. Betty and Marv here to remind you about the trips that we have coming up for this year. But you know what? We don't want to talk about that really.
We don't.
No, we want to talk about the stuff that we're planning for next year for the year 2001.
Oh, Marv, we're just getting almost to a point where I've got things all in order now. We're going to plan for next year, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Gotta
if you
plan a
say
year
so.
ahead, you know how it
be
is.
the boss.
Anyway, we want to go back to China. And
Yes.
if you would like to go with us, why don't you give Betty a phone call and say, hey, I'm a candidate for China. We'll also, of course, go back to the Holy Land. We're thinking about England, Ireland, and Scotland, Turkey, and South America. So if any of those interest you, give Betty a call and say, hey, Betty, I'm interested in going on one of those trips.
We don't have the brochures yet. These are all in the making right now.
Right.
We're fomenting for next year.
And so, in fact, you might have an idea of places that you would like to go. That would give us an idea for the year 2001.
I'm probably talking too much like I always do, but you know why we're going to China? Is because we go up to Guilin and we take the cruise and we're going to go to the Three Gorges, and They're going to dam that up, and this will be the last time anybody will be able to see it within the next 3 years. So all of this magnificent part of China will be lost to everyone. So we want to get in there before this happens.
We want to see it before it's all covered with water.
And we want you to see it too.
All right. Give Betty a call at.
488-7443.
Thank you.
Oh, you got one? Oh, good. Awesome.
Well, Betty, from the native market, let's go up to the area where Chiang Kai-shek had his headquarters for a while. And Mr. Lee, who is our national guide and whose home is in Xi'an, is going to explain to us a little bit about the circumstances where Chiang Kai-shek was and exactly what happened.
Yeah, if you take a look over there in half of the mountain, you will see there's a gate over there, a door over there. That is the place where Chiang Kai-shek was captured, exactly over there. You know, that is in 1936 12 incident, that is December 12th. Chiang Kai-shek was kidnapped by two of his generals, that is General Zhang and General Yang, by the very beginning of anti-Japanese war. And so after he was kidnapped, there was lengthy negotiations between Communist Party and the Kuomintang. So the incident was peacefully resolved, and Chiang Kai-shek was forced to halt the civil war. He was forced to halt the civil war and unite with the Communist Party to fight Japanese invaders. So after 8 years, we succeeded in fighting against Japanese. So Japanese really was beaten by Chinese people. The place where Chiang Kai-shek once lived when he came here to Xi'an. By the very end of the anti-Japanese war, Chiang Kai-shek came here and forced his generals to fight the Communist Party. And he came here, he lived here. There are 5 rooms for Chiang Kai-shek to live here. The bedroom, sitting room, guard room, secretary room, what else? Anyhow, there are 5 rooms for him here. You know, during the very, at the eve of December 12th, he was sleeping here. And he heard the bulletin sound, and then he fled to the mountain. And then by the very morning of December 12th, he was found in the mountain over there, and he was kidnapped over there. That's it. And when he came here, he lived here before, and yeah, by the very.
How long did he live here before all that happened?
Well, that happened about not more than 1 month.
This one. Where had he been before that?
In Nanjing, a lot of you know, Chiang Kai-shek had his capital in Nanjing. His capital in Nanjing. And so after he was kidnapped here, he was how can I say? He was patrolled to Nanjing, and then there was a negotiation between Kuomintang and the Communist Party in Nanjing, and the incident was peacefully resolved in Nanjing. And then there was anti-Japanese war.
Well, Mr. Lee has a tendency to repeat himself a little bit, doesn't he?
Oh, does he ever?
I guess he wanted to make sure that we understood what he was saying. But I thought these grounds, even though it was a rainy day, are just marvelous. All the little pathways and the architecture that you could see. Look at this little roadway. Isn't it beautiful?
Yes, I don't know whether you noticed it or not, but even though it's raining, look at the attire that the people were in with shorts, and so it was not cold.
Oh, no, not at all.
It was just wet.
This wall is very interesting because you see how it's curved there, and then it comes up to the top, and that's the head of the dragon.
Yeah,
isn't that something? Well, Chiang Kai-shek, even though he was only here a small time, must have enjoyed it. Now, this is an area downtown Xi'an, and as you can see, the buildings are very modern. And we noticed everywhere we went in China that there was an awful lot of building going on.
Yes.
It was just like the place is exploding. You know something, Betty, that I noticed here that was different from when we were in the Soviet Union? The brand of communism must be totally different because you see advertisements here in China. You sure didn't see that in the USSR, did you?
No, well, they get to keep their money. I mean, they're much more lenient with them here.
Yeah, and a lot of people have asked, they said, well, what did you see the difference between the Soviets and the Chinese? Chinese were happy.
Oh, yes. They
They
were
were
a
happy.
happy people.
Happy and having a good time.
Let's see the parkas that they're wearing on their bicycles.
Yeah.
A lot of us bought these parkas and have used them since. Very, very practical. They were about $1 a piece, and so you fold them up in your purse, and then when the rain comes, you just unfold it, and away you go.
That's right. Now, this is probably the prettiest part of the city. And the city, of course, as we've shown you before, is encircled, the old city, by the wall. And we're going to go underneath that wall right now. And we're then going to show you a little bit more of the hotel that we stayed in. I had to get a shot of this sign because you do see big placards like this. And the other one that I don't think I got was the one family, one child sign, which was advertising quite a bit around the city.
You don't see billboards advertising things, though, like you do in the States.
No,
There's
but there were
nothing
some.
like that.
But there were some. Now, again, this is the lobby of our hotel where we were in earlier this morning, and this is owned and operated and built, I suspect, by the Chinese. A beautiful hotel, the Xi'an Hotel. They had a new wing, and I don't know, was your room? I guess we were all in the new wing.
In the new wing, yeah.
And that's the wing right there. And our accommodations, I thought, in China were absolutely fantastic.
They were.
Just
Well, we were all in
fantastic.
first-class hotels,
Yes.
but they could have been 5-star hotels, as far as I'm concerned.
As far as I'm concerned,
all
too.
the amenities. It was
Right.
really nice.
And each room had I had our own little bar, a refrigerator that was well stocked. And this was quite pretty. I could see this out my room. This was a little garden park there that was just very, very nice. And I watched the workmen there in the morning.
Look at the colors of those trees.
It is beautiful. We're going to go now out to visit a pagoda. And there are two pagodas, the small goose and the large goose, I believe that's correct, pagoda in Xi'an. And so we're going to visit the large goose pagoda. And if we climb to the top, every floor that you climb, supposedly legend says, you can gain an extra 10 years of longevity.
My God, I'm going to live to be so old.
Did you get 7 stories high?
I
Betty?
went all the way to the top.
Oh, well, so did I, and it was interesting. I saw a little tiny Chinese lady who couldn't have been more than 4 feet tall and probably 190 years old, and I think maybe she was making a round trip up there. I'm
Well,
not
I want
quite
to tell you,
sure.
it was tough. You got up to about the 3rd floor, and then you paused.
That's right, and took a breath, and then on again. Mr. Lee is now going to explain a little bit about the pagoda.
You know, in the Tang Dynasty, there was a famous monk. And named Xuanzang, and he went to India and stayed there for 15 years. 15 years. And studying Buddhism there. Studied Buddhism there. He stayed 15 years in India and studying Buddhism. When he came back, he brought back 600 volumes Buddhist scriptures back to China, back to Xi'an, back to Shanghai, of course. Yeah, Shanghai. Xi'an was called Shanghai at that time. So in order to keep or to house those Buddhist scriptures brought back by the famous monk named Xuanzang, this was built. So the purpose of the pagoda was to house the Buddhist scriptures, was to keep or house the Buddhist scriptures. It's to keep or to house the Buddhist scriptures, right? Here, you know, the famous monk Xuanzang, and in the Tang Dynasty, he's a very famous monk, and he went to India, studied Buddhism over there. Perhaps you will ask me why it was called big wild goose. Why wild goose? Why? Why wild goose? Yeah, because, you know, according to the legend that in India, you know, of course, yeah, Buddhism was invented in India 6th century BC. 6th century BC by Sakyamuni, right? You know Sakyamuni as the founder of Buddhism. Sakyamuni. And in India, he founded Buddhism. Then Buddhism came to China from India and came to Japan from China. But you saw Japan culture is now Japanese culture is similar to Chinese culture. And you know, it was Buddhism came to China from Japan. So it said that one day in a Buddhist temple in India, a group of monks suffered from hunger. They had nothing to eat. So one of the monks said, if there's something for us to eat, we can survive the disaster. So suddenly there was a group of geese flying over their head, and one goose fall down, and fall down dead. Actually, you know, they think that there must be the founder or ceremonious offering to them, so for them to survive the hunger. So they did not eat these goods. They just buried down ground. So to be in memory of these goods, they built a pagoda. This pagoda was named Wild Goose Pagoda. So that's why nearly many Buddhist pagodas are called Wild Goose Pagoda. In Xi'an there are two pagodas. This pagoda is larger or bigger. That pagoda is small. So this was called a big Wild Goose Pagoda. And also there's a small Wild Goose Pagoda. I'm sure you have seen that from the hotel, right? Very near our hotel. That's the small Wild Goose Pagoda. This is a big Wild Goose Pagoda. This is a big Wild Goose Pagoda here, all right?
Betty, what pagoda is this?
I think it was the Wild Goose Pagoda.
Right.
You heard it enough.
Yes, Mr. Lee wants to make sure that we understood. Now, inside, on the ground floor, you can see there is a little Buddha statue right there. And there wasn't very much light, of course, inside. And the stairs are very narrow. And as you climb around going up, there were some people that were coming down. And
Yes.
it was very, very
It
narrow.
was rather hazardous.
Yes. But you made it all the way to the 7th floor.
I made it to the 7th floor,
Well,
so that gives me 70 more years. My
That's
family
right.
will have a fit.
Now listen, I climbed all the way. See these little coins right here? Well, we'll get another shot of that in a minute. But people then also threw little coins out, and they landed on the roof, and there were things growing on the roof there too. But I threw a coin out, and I asked Mr. Lee, and he said, "Oh, well, you get extra years then for that."
Gosh, I didn't know that, or I'd
Yeah.
have thrown out my purse.
But the view is quite nice. There's a dragon right there. There's an amusement park off in the distance, as you can just sort of see a little bit. And I love the architecture. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. Here were some little gardens there, and every shot that we see is up from one more floor. And now we're looking down. There's the money right there in the foreground that you can see, Betty. And my little coin, whatever it was, landed there, and I think it stayed there. But I thought this area was really
Beautiful.
quite magnificent.
Very, very green. It shows you that it rains. Well, we know
Yes.
it rains a lot in Xi'an.
Now, I saw a Buddhist monk here, so this must have been a monastery, walking through the hallways there, the courtyard, and I was hoping that I was going to get another shot of him, but evidently I didn't.